Hey, my name's Dan Secord. I play guitar in Coke Spoon. I do vocals in Hostage. I write, record, and produce my own music in the Cassandra Dilemma. And I live in Hamilton, Ontario. So my main influences growing up were a lot of the local metal and hardcore acts. I grew up listening to a lot of Rise Over Run and Jude the Obscure, and they were really my first introduction into metal and hardcore, and I always looked up to those guys. So what got me into hardcore and metal was I grown up listening to Rage Against the Machine, and to me they were the best thing. They were the bee's knees, and hearing music that was not about shedding a tear over a fucking girlfriend leaving you or broken heart or whatever typical cliche bullshit you hear. They were passionate and they were angry and it was political, and I didn't really understand it as a kid, but I knew there was something there, and that anger kind of drove me towards harder things. And in my early teens, my brother, older brother, was working at a bar, and he was working with a bunch of metalheads, and they all love their Pantera and that kind of shit. But they knew a lot about the underground metal scene and introduced me to a lot of really cool shit like Unearth and Caliban and a little more obscure metal, that kind of stuff. And these guys would come to our parents' house all the time, and they'd bring their gear with us, and they'd set up, and they had a band going. And to me, that was just the coolest fucking thing ever, seeing these guys rocking out and doing their thing and writing this pissed off music. And I had to, dip my feet in that and see what it was all about. So I would say that those guys were truly what got me into hardcore. First show I ever attended is, ironically enough, first hardcore show I ever attended as well. And it was seeing Rise Over Run. My older brother was kind enough to take me to, I think it was the NAC in St. Catharines, Niagara Arts Center, I think it was called. Very small venue. We could smoke inside at the time. That was fabulous. Smoked a full pack of cigarettes that night. And yeah, seeing Rise Over Run, and I was very confused because, as I said, I'm into this angry music now, and I'm expecting just fucking riots at this place. And get to the show, and we're watching the show, and Rise is just fucking killing it, and it's heavy, and everything's great. And I can't figure out why the crowd's not moving. There's not a lot of people there, but I figured there has to be some mosh pit or something. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And there's this big fucking bald 300-pound punk dude who's just strutting back and forth in the pit. And that's all there was. And I couldn't wrap my head around this. And then finally Rise got to a breakdown in a song, and the vocalist points at this big dude, and he goes, "You're fucking dead." And sure enough, all the kids came out and started doing fucking karate, and they fucked this dude up. And it was awesome. So some of my favorite shows that I've seen, there are quite a few, so bear with me here. I had the privilege of seeing Alexisonfire's first show, which I'm not by any means an Alexisonfire fan anymore, but that was really cool to see nonetheless. Saw them at the NAC as well, ironically enough. I got to see Unearth with about 30 people in the room, and those guys go nuts on stage, so all that extra space, they made use of it. That was really fucking cool to see. One night, it was a Sunday in St. Catharines at the L3. A Life Once Lost had rolled through, and For the Fallen Dreams was supposed to play. They didn't make the border, and all the other bands fucking blew. Like, they just sucked. It was not worth seeing any of them. And A Life Once Lost came up, and I didn't know too much about them at the time. I just knew that they were a heavier band from the States. And my expectations weren't too high because the crowd was just dead. And I think it surprised them as well, too, because when they came on stage and they played the first note, they were the loudest fucking band I'd ever heard. and they blew the fucking roof off this place. Nobody was standing still. It was fucking insane. So that was definitely a top show that I'd seen. And in terms of favorite shows that I've played and witnessed as well, were we used to have an annual backyard show in Stony Creek at my friend's mom's house. She had a beautiful backyard, and we'd ruin it every fucking year. And I got to see a lot of good bands there. Got to see Sons of Azrael before they went through all kinds of tragedy. Line Dance Massacre. Who else played there? Everybody. My band played a couple of years, so that was really fun. And it was always a good time because everyone there was shit-faced drunk and high, and usually there were like 10 fights that broke out, and it was usually a bunch of jocks would come, and because they'd hear the music from the street, and they'd come and they'd start fucking a ruckus, and then all the punk and hardcore kids would rally against these guys, and it was a big tribal war, and always the most fun. So those are definitely my favorite shows. So, craziest thing I have ever seen at a show, and you're going to notice a reoccurring theme here, is that a Rise Over Run show. In the Sonic Onion basement, for those that are familiar with it, it was a dank little fucking hole. And I think it was their last show, if I'm not mistaken. I know they have had like 4, but this was probably their actual last show. So they're playing their last song, it's Playing War. And they cut the lights right before the breakdown. And shit gets crazy, and bodies are flying everywhere and what have you. And turn the lights back on, breakdown's over, set's over, they're packing up. And this dude in front of me looks at me and he goes, "Hey man, did you punch me in the back of the head?" And I said, "No man, why would I do that? Why would I punch you in the back of the head?" He goes, "I don't know, somebody fucking hit me in the back of the head." And he goes to show me his head, and I see this perfect semicircle cut imprint in his head, and I think, what the fuck is this all about? Whatever, think nothing of it. And I turn around and look at my friend who was at the show with me, and he's holding his mouth and he's fucking in pain, and I can see it. I said, "What the fuck happened to you?" He'd had his front tooth knocked out on the back of this guy's fucking poor head. And after the show, long and short, we went looking around, we found the tooth. And we presented it to the guys at Rise Over Run, and they confirmed that was the most metal fucking thing they'd ever seen. So, past and current bands that I've played in. I'll go back to Eaten Alive. I played guitar in. We were not the greatest band in the world, but we did play a few shows. So that's where it really started out. Other notable acts, I played guitar in Your Own Deathbed for a couple of years, I want to say. I helped build that band from the ground up, and now they've taken off into something fucking even better. I did vocals in Your Own Deathbed very briefly as well. Then Kevin took over, which is fucking awesome. He's a wicked vocalist. I briefly played guitar maybe for about a year on and off in Scabs Off. From there, I started my solo project, the Cassandra Dilemma, and I've been doing that for a few years now. Like I said, I play guitar in that, I do the bass, I do vocals, drums, everything, record it in my basement here. And then lastly, I believe, it was Hostage. I'm doing vocals in Hostage now. We've just recently walked out of this pandemic and are hoping to play some shows soon, so hopefully we'll see you there. In addition to that, I play guitar in Coke Spoon, as I'd said earlier, and that's kind of more of a joke project. I don't even know if it's still going on or not, but that's what we're doing. So, favorite part about being a musician is being part of the songwriting process. I have some strange fascination with song structure and the production of it, and really taking things, and it's almost like putting a puzzle together. And that to me is just the best part of being in a band. And, you know, when you get a bunch of diverse guys together and you throw them together, guys or girls, I should say, and you throw them together and they all have different tastes and they kind of work together to make something new, I find that to be absolutely fascinating. So that's without a doubt my favorite part about being in a band and being a musician. My least favorite thing about being a musician is the social aspect of it. I'm not a very sociable person, so having to go out and meet new people is a struggle for me. So there's been a bit of a learning curve for me, but at the same time I think it's been beneficial to me. So I hate it, but I also love it. So favorite food, easily lamb in some capacity. I love fucking lamb tacos. There's a place at the Hamilton Farmers Market that does the best lamb taco I've ever had in my fucking life. So if you're in the area, go and check that shit out. Lamb korma, love Indian food, and yeah, lamb korma is right up there. And I have a bit of a guilty pleasure, and I have guitarist and hostage to thank for this, Sandy. Sandy, you got me hooked on Taco Bell. Guilty pleasure, man. After I smoke a couple of joints, I pull up the Uber Eats and I gotta get that fucking value box menu, man. Love the Taco Bell. Although I have many, many, many useless talents, I'll give you the one that really stands out for me, and it's the fact that I am as mentally unstable as I am.